Hi, I'm Sandra from ZNet Uralla. Today we're going to be talking to Bob. He and his wife Wendy have just completed a great new house in Uralla, and it's been specifically designed for our cold climate. So if you're planning a new build or a renovation, you'll get lots of great tips from the way that Bob and Wendy have designed their home.
We liked the area, and at that time we were living in Sydney. We were happy to look at getting out of Sydney, and liked Armidale. Started to look around for houses up there. Couldn't find anything that we liked. And we were going back to Sydney. We drove through Uralla and had a coffee, had a little look around, and we thought, oh, this is a very nice place, nice little town. And we started to get serious about looking for something in Uralla. We then started to look at houses and the price and the properties that were available, and we couldn't find anything that really suited us. My wife wanted something that was traditional, old, and we couldn't really find anything that was going to be sustainable, basically. Everything was going to be cold and old, and probably going to cost us a fair bit to renovate. So having done that, we went back to Sydney, and we were good friends with John Kirko, who eventually was our architect. And he suggested he'd found this block of land in Uralla, and we looked at it. We thought it was pretty good value. I came up and had another look, and it reminded me a lot of where I grew up in Sydney, except for the climate. And that was going to be something that we needed to get used to and prepare for.
Normally the architect wouldn't be involved in identifying the block, so that was a bit of a luxury. Other clients obviously have their blocks and they're building their new houses on them. However, within all of that mix of people, you will work with the client to site the house. So siting the house is really important. So if you can, and you are looking for a block, you really have to look at some pretty basic and fundamental issues. So power and water is one of those things, obviously. It's not necessary to be linked into the grid as such, and I have a couple of clients who are standalone, so there's no connection to power nor water, so they recycle their own water, they collect their water, and they create their own energy. But when you do have a town block, there's a number of easements that run through the block, and that decreases your opportunity to use the block the way that you want to, and therefore it might constrain the way that you put the house. So sometimes that's a really important factor to deal with. Now, our friends that had moved up here, we sited their house, and there was a lot of constraints. So there was only a real small patch that could be used really of an acre block, so it was quite a big block to place the house. But your first step then on all of your housing sites is to orientate the house so it's pointing in the right direction.
In relation to working with our architect John Kirko, I was happy to give him full control. My wife wasn't. She wanted. There were certain aspects of the house, obviously, that she wanted put in place. We wanted to design a type of a Federation facade, but inside it was going to be contemporary. However, the technical aspects of that, we were quite happy to hand over to John. I had full confidence in him. Known John for quite some time, and I'd actually followed his career when he was training to be an architect, and we're absolutely delighted with the final result.
In Bob and Wendy's home, you'll notice that there's a granite wall internally. That granite wall is also backed by brick, and there's another brick feature in a sun seat in the kitchen, and that is a good example of a reverse brick. Outside we've got a weatherboard which is insulated, and then we've got the thermal mass internally near the fireplace where it's going to pick up the heat in winter. In summer, of course, that's a shaded area and it's cool. So that part, you can actually feel the what we call coolth. It's an interesting term, it's a real word, I didn't believe it initially, but it's coolth, coming off bricks. If you walk past it on a hot day, you'll feel cool coming off a shaded brick internal wall. And what's happening there is a heat transfer. It's not necessarily you're feeling a cold thing, it's actually taking your heat away from your body. So it's starting to absorb that heat. And so it's a heat transfer between you and the material. And that's how materials work. You know, materials can be quite important as to where you place them. So for example, in Bob and Wendy's place, that reverse brick veneer structure could be used in a high-set home or retrofitted into a house like this, where it's all wood, we're off the ground, but we can put thermal mass in by building these blade walls. So that's another trick that you might use depending on the site and the type of building material that you've got.
Thanks for watching. If you'd like to know more about anything that we've talked about in these short videos, please contact ZNet Uralla with the details below. And if you'd like to get involved, we'd welcome people who would like to come and volunteer their services to work with us.